22 South Korean projects in the United States have been suspended. Those projects are worth over $100 billion.
It's their ego and them finally seeing someone in the White House who is a PDF literally be racist. And they're now finding out that racism is a very expensive thing to be a part of.
Being racist in America costs all of us. It's very well understood now that no one can afford college because of Ronald Reagan. College in the United States used to be affordable, if not free, until the 1980s and Ronald Reagan. And they realized that a ton of Black Americans were starting to go to secondary universities. So they made the cost of going to college astronomical, unaffordable, unapproachable to try to whitewash attendance. Unfortunately, for a lot of lower and middle income white people, that also meant you get caught up in the net. Now no one can afford fucking college because they tried to keep Black and brown people out. And it's happening again in 2025 in the big fucking stupid budget bill that they've come up with. They're cutting Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP benefits, and FEMA. Why? Why are they cutting all of these programs? So that they can build detention centers for ICE. So because you're racist against brown people and you don't want brown people in this country, they're going to spend billions of dollars on building detention centers, camps, prisons. They're going to use your tax money to pay to fly them out of the country, to pay customs and border agents to round them up. That shit doesn't happen for free. So they're going to cut FEMA. So the next time you see a hurricane, a tornado, a fire swoop through your town or your neighborhood and destroy everything, and you wonder where FEMA is, it's in jail. Instead of saving each other and your neighbors, you're now paying to incarcerate brown people. They're using our money for hate instead of help. And you're good with this?
Grand rising kings and queens from Africa and across the ocean, welcome back to my YouTube commentary. I welcome you so much with a lot of love. Now, today I'm diving deep into something the world can no longer ignore. Yes, Black people cried out for so many years, for centuries. They cried out that racism wasn't just a moral evil. They said racism was also an economic burden, a curse, and a system that drained life, a system that drained wealth, a system that drained dignity from our people. White society ignored it. They told Black people that they were just complaining. They told Black people to work harder. They said, work harder. You are not working enough. Stop playing victim. But right now, something shaking the world is happening. Something shocking is happening. The same white societies, the ones who build their prosperity on the suffering of Black people, are feeling the same pain they once dismissed, are feeling the same pain they once ignored, okay? Inflation is eating up their wealth. Healthcare is collapsing for them too. Their children are overdosing. Their neighbors are no longer feeling safe. Their jobs are disappearing, and suddenly they are whispering words like Black people were right. Black people already knew. We wish we could listen to Black people. Racism is expensive. The system doesn't protect us anymore. That's what they are saying. This is not about revenge. What is happening is not about gloating. This is about truth and justice. The truth that the system of racism was never sustainable. It was built like a credit card, spending human lives, especially Black lives, to fund temporary comfort. But every debt must be paid. And now, the bill has arrived. The bill has arrived. When Black communities suffered unemployment, mass incarceration, medical negligence, and homelessness, white communities looked away. They told themselves that that's not our problem. When Black people are suffering about insecurity, they said it is not our problem. Right now, it is their problem. Right now, they are walking in the shoes they once said they were too heavy for Black people to complain about. Okay? So I'm going to explore this. I want to play videos of the complaints and everything, because you want to know why racism was always an expensive system. You want to know how white American is now suffering from the consequences. You want to know the areas of crisis like economic, healthcare, insecurity, you know. And we'll talk about why Black people warned about this long time ago. And of course, what it means for the future. Let's watch these clips and then we're coming back with more commentary.
The thing that's really getting to me about all these farmers asking for a bailout right now is that they don't believe in student loan forgiveness because they think that's a personal issue and that's a matter of personal responsibility, and they don't want to pay for somebody else's financial decisions. And if you don't understand just how ridiculous that is, let me break it down for you. In the 1980s, Ronald Reagan decided to gut the Department of Education and deregulate absolutely everything. And since then, we have seen the cost of a 4-year college degree go up by 400%. At the same time, pretty much every job is requiring you to have a college degree, and that is due, in part, to the fact that a lot of these colleges and universities are acting as investment banks into these major corporations, and so these companies are getting back-end investments from the very colleges and universities they're requiring their employees to go to. And instead of dealing with absolutely any of that, we've just been encouraging 17-year-olds to sign on the dotted line for some of the most predatory loans available in this country, and we say, oh, don't worry about it. You'll be able to get a job that pays you well enough to pay back these loans. It's no big deal. But because of the sheer stupidity of the Republican Party and Reaganomics, wages have completely stagnated. 60 to 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. The Republican Party, since the end of the Cold War, has only created 1 million jobs. We have now reached a point where there are more people looking for a job than there are jobs available. And so when all of our doctors and nurses and pharmacists and lawyers and teachers and social workers and engineers and architects and software developers all say, hey, I feel like you lied to me. I feel like, you told me that I would be able to pay back these loans. These loans are really predatory. I feel like you told me that my wages would be higher. They're not. Can I get some sort of assistance? Can I get some interest-free loans or something like that? We all get told, fuck you. Fuck you, we can't pay for student loan forgiveness. That's a you problem. Oh, by the way, we also need to bail out the farmers. Why do we need to bail out the farmers? Oh yeah, because they, individually, decided to walk into a polling booth and vote to take away their own contracts with USAID. They, knowingly and willingly, walked into a polling booth and voted for a man that had bankrupted them before. So we need to deal with that problem first. Yours is actually just a matter of personal responsibility, though, so you take care of that on your own.
Damn, racism sure is expensive. So much winning, huh? So much winning. You've spent so much time being racist and white supremacists and demonizing immigrants while voted for a white man who's a convicted felon who knew that he wouldn't pay any attention to the economy. I mean, it's almost like the guy that had 6 bankruptcies and failed 2 casinos, that might have been a sign, or 3 failed marriages, 2 failed presidencies, Trump steaks, donations for cancer charities that he stole from. It's almost like you guys literally failed an open book test. He said, I am a convicted felon. I could unalive somebody on 5th Avenue, and you're like, yeah, woo, praise Jesus. Oh my God, he's such a Christian man. Woo, hot damn, racism expensive. Hey, but thoughts and prayers, okay, everybody? Let's make sure we give these farmers and all these people that are losing their jobs on the right thoughts and prayers as they worship their orange daddy. Damn, racism's expensive. Woo!
I live in rural Arkansas. And if you don't understand why people in rural Arkansas or rural America vote Republican, it's because of fear and jealousy. Jealousy that somebody has it better than they do, that they work their asses off, and most of them do. More education, because the education here is at the bottom of the tier. Maternal mortality, low. Education, low. Quality of living, low. Infrastructure, super low. There's no industry, there's no hope for these young kids in rural Arkansas to have a job. We had a chance to vote Chris Jones, an actual rocket scientist like myself who was educated and had a plan to bring jobs and infrastructure to Arkansas. But the people I talked to in rural Arkansas will not vote for him because of his color of his skin. And they weren't nice when they described the color of his skin. So they voted for a sycophant, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who is treating this like her personal money bank. There is no infrastructure here. The roads are shit. You can drive 2 hours. So my closest grocery store, besides Walmart, is 2 hours away. So if I go that 2 hours to go to that grocery store, the roads I have to take are barely have enough room for 2 people to pass each other. There is no cell phone coverage for over an hour and a half of that ride. And there's no hope to get those roads fixed anytime soon because there's no money. I say that, but lo and behold, what did Sarah do as of July of 2025? She has loaned and bought $55 million worth of Israeli bonds. So she's loaned Israel $55 million with a catch to give them 100 more million by the end of the year. When her people are fucking starving, they have no medical care. Hell, most teenage girls here are living at home pregnant with their moms. And they're living at home with their moms and their boyfriends. Because that's how rural America lives. There's nothing for these kids to look forward to. So why would they ever vote Republican? Because that's what they're told to do. $150 million would go a long way to feed, get medical attention, and up our so that our children here in Arkansas don't die in infancy and the mothers don't die in childbirth. And that is rural America. Fuck Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She is the worst governor at, okay, she's second. Our neighbor Texas Abbott is worse, but she's a close second.
So when we talk about racism being expensive, let's talk about racism when it comes to urban planning. So back in the day, there was a popular architect by the name of Robert Moses. And when he was, designing the Long Island Expressway, he made the overpasses, the overpass that goes over the highway, also known as the bridges, pretty low. And he did this because he didn't want, people from the inner city to be able to take a bus, whether it be a school field trip or just public transportation, out to Jones Beach to enjoy the beach. So that was his way of making sure that Black and Latino people stayed in the inner city and made it so that mostly only the others could enjoy beautiful things like Jones Beach. However, they didn't factor in truckers. Okay, how are we going to get our goods if all the bridges are this low, if you get what I'm saying? And I have heard a lot of truckers complain about how they hate dropping and picking up loads in the Northeast because of the bridges being so low. And so they have to go through the most to get where they need to go, when if the bridges were built a normal height, they could just drive down the highways as regular, if you get what I'm saying. But a lot of truck drivers, they might get to a bridge and then it's like, all right, now you can't go this way. And so they spend a lot of time trying to figure out other routes in this region of the country. And so, yeah, that's my fun fact of the day.
Listen to me. Racism is the poison in Arkansas soil. That's right, racism. Last week, hundreds of Arkansas farmers stood in a room and broke down in prayer in front of their elected officials. They weren't praying for rain, guys. They weren't praying for sunshine. They weren't even praying for a bumper crop. They were praying because their farms, their family land, their way of life is collapsing under tariffs and trade wars. And here's the truth. Those tariffs, that trade war, that whole playbook was born out of racism. Farmers were told the story that punishing foreigners would make America strong again. They were told to clap when leaders wagged their finger at China, Mexico, or whoever else they decided was the villain of the week. They were told it was patriotism, but really it was racism dressed up in red, white, and blue, and farmers bought it. They cheered it. They co-signed it. And now they are the ones paying the bill. Look at soybeans. Without tariffs, U.S. beans leaving New Orleans are cheaper than Brazil. But with tariffs, suddenly Brazil is winning. And who did that? Not God, not nature, not fate. Your own leaders waving a racist flag and calling it strength. And the farmers who clapped for it are now on their knees begging for help. This isn't the first time. History is packed with proof that racism bankrupts the very people it fuels. Jim Crow didn't just brutalize black citizens. It strangled the Southern economy for generations. Segregation didn't just rob black kids of opportunity. It robbed the entire South of progress, creativity, and prosperity. The Chinese Exclusion Act of the 1880s, it cut off immigrant labor that helped build America, leaving industries starved. Japanese internment during World War II, well, that destroyed businesses, farms, and families, and the whole economy bore the cost. Every single time America lets racism drive policy, the poison spreads. It never just hits the target. It always circles back. And now here we are again. Farmers in Arkansas prayed out loud last week because they're broke. And they know it. And some of them voted for this mess. Some of them cheered when the tariffs went into place because they thought it would put others in their place. But you can't hate and expect to harvest prosperity. You cannot poison your neighbor's well without eventually drinking from it yourself. So let's call this what it is. Racism is the poison in your soil. It's why your crops can't compete. It's why your barns are empty. It's why you bowed your head in front of men in suits who don't care about you at all beyond your vote. Racism doesn't just starve the people you think are your enemies. It starves you. Arkansas, this is your wake-up call. You can pray all you want, but you have to face the truth. Nothing changes unless you do. Racism isn't strength, it's weakness. It's not power, it's poison. It's killing your farms, your family, and your future. Please wake up.
Welcome back. Racism has always been painted as power, but in reality, it was an illusion that cost too much to maintain. When slavery was abolished, white America thought they could still build wealth by restricting black labor, by segregating, by redlining, by denying black people education and healthcare. Every single one of those racist policies cost money. Think about that. Segregation meant building duplicate schools. Segregation meant building duplicate hospitals. Segregation meant building duplicate infrastructure, okay? So that black people couldn't mix with white societies. And that wasn't efficient. It was wasteful. But white supremacy didn't care about efficiency. It cared about illusion. Come to Jim Crow. The laws meant extra policing, extra prisons, extra bureaucracy, just to keep black people in their place. And that required massive taxpayer spending. Who paid for that? It was white America. White America paid for that. And let me tell you, it's not the elites. It's not the rich white people who paid for that. It is you, a simple middle-class white America, who paid for racism. They paid higher taxes to fund a system designed to humiliate black people. When you look at mass incarceration, that's billions upon billions of dollars spent locking up black men and women who could have been building businesses, who could have been paying taxes, who could have been raising families, contributing to society instead. America wasted resources on prison industries and policing. That is too much. It was too much. And that was expensive. Healthcare racism. They were denying black people access to proper hospitals. That meant diseases spread faster. Communities were weaker, and the healthcare system had to spend even more on emergency cost. Again, it was expensive. When they say racism is expensive, they mean it is expensive to make sure that other communities are living better than others. Other communities have their own schools and hospitals and these things. So my family, what we are seeing that racism was never cheap. It was never free. It was always an economic illusion, a way to maintain superiority on paper while quietly draining the society's resources. Let me tell you, even being a racist, it is so hard. How can you live with hatred in your heart when you see your brother, when you see fellow human being with different skin, you feel something in your heart. It is hard to carry hatred in your heart and brain. It is so hard. Do you remember how many times we had, or how many times you have come across something like, if black people just worked harder, they wouldn't be poor? Or why are black communities struggling with unemployment? Even the white farmers were saying black farmers don't know how to organize themselves, And when you look at white America right now, inflation is eating their savings. Mortgages are impossible to pay. The same thing hit on black families back in 2008. are now swallowing white families in 2025. That means what? That means black people already knew how to come out of this suffering. The jobs they thought were only for white people are now vanishing. Farmers are crying out. Middle class families are struggling, and the rich are hoarding everywhere. Black people want them. Black people say the system is rigged for the wealthy. Black people say that if you do not change, it will eat you alive too. They laughed. They said that that's how capitalism works. But right now, capitalism is turning on them, and they are stunned. Economic racism built a false economy. They thought that they could keep black labor cheap forever. They thought they could redline black families and still build suburbs that lasted. They thought they could deny black workers fair wages and still keep wealth circulating. But my family, wealth doesn't work that way, okay? If you choke half the population, the economy eventually suffocates every day. So, not every day, but suffocates everybody now. And today, the suffering of white America is the suffering of black Americans centuries ago. And that's why you don't see black people complaining too much. The bitter truth is racism made the fall us, because instead of building resilience together, they build separation. And now when the storm comes, they have no shelter, they have nowhere to run. Black people can't help. We can't give you tactics to survive, because when it was your time, you raised your shoulders high. Black people cried out for decades when healthcare was collapsing, and they were ignored. Black people were denied treatment. Our women died during giving birth more than anyone else. But white America dismissed it, and they said that that's your lifestyle, that's your choice. But now when you look around, healthcare is collapsing for them too. Medical bills are bankrupting white families. Life expectancy is falling. Diseases like diabetes, mental health crisis, it's overdosing. These diseases are spreading among them the way poverty-related illness hit black people long time ago. Racism denied health care by creating separate systems, unequal systems, and broken trust. Instead of fixing health care for all, they spent billions policing black neighborhoods while letting hospitals rot. And now, those same hospitals can't even take care of their own communities. It is ironic. It is ironic. Or what do you see? The same people who told black families or black mothers to be healthier are now crying that they can't afford just insulin. The same people who told black men to stop complaining are now on opioids, struggling to get rehab. So this is not about laughing at their pain. This is about reminding the world that when you build inequality, you build collapse. Racism always comes back. It starts with black suffering, but it ends with everyone suffering. For decades, black communities lived under fear. Fear of collapse, fear of brutality, fear of poverty, fear of gangs, fueled by poverty, fear of walking home at night. But white America said, that's your problem. Our neighborhoods are safe. But right now, their neighborhoods are drowning in insecurity. Crime rates are rising where they once felt safe. Shootings are happening not just in inner cities, but in suburbs too. Drugs are flooding their towns. Suicide rates are climbing. Even their police can't protect them anymore. Why? Because insecurity is the price of inequality. When you build a society where some are left behind, eventually desperation spread. The gun you gave to police to kill or to an alive black man eventually points back to you. And white America is shocked. They are shocked because they are crying, because how could this happen to your own community? Black America have always known this. Black America have always known insecurity was baked into the system of racism. You can't cage one people without building a prison that eventually traps you too. Family. Let me speak about something even deeper. The breakdown of the family. For generations, white America accused black communities of broken families, and they said, look at the absent fathers, because in black communities our fathers were not there. Why? Because our fathers were inculcated, our fathers were unalived, our fathers were taken to work into slave farms. So the missing black fathers was not the fault of black people, okay? Because racism caused the broken families. Slavery ripped fathers from mothers, mothers from children. Mass incarceration snatched men out of the household, redlining forced families into poverty where stress and survival broke homes apart. Now look right now. White families are breaking too. Divorce rates are skyrocketing. White fathers are leaving homes. White mothers are raising children alone. Children are being raised by opioids, alcohol, and despair. So the same dysfunction they blamed on us, black people, is now consuming them too. And here's the truth. This is not punishment. This is exposure. Exposure that racism always hid white pain by protecting or projecting it onto blackness. And they say that we are stable, you are unstable. That's what they said. But right now we see instability is the fruit of inequality. So if you build a society on lies, the truth eventually cracks through. It is reality, always. That's how life is. And right now, the image of the perfect white family, the suburban dream, is collapsing under reality. They are testing the same bitterness they told black people. They told black people that this one is your fault. Now, whose fault is it right now on the white sides? They ignored the issue of mental health. Black people lived for centuries with trauma of slavery, trauma of lynching, trauma of poverty, trauma of being hated in your country. Imagine as a black kid walking in the street, you are being followed because you are black. It is traumatizing. But now white America is drowning in mental health crisis. Their children are depressed, suicidal, hopeless. Their teenagers are overdosing. They never invested in mental health because they thought mental health was black people or was black weakness. But what was ignored for us eventually broke them too. And the truth is, racism creates generational trauma for everyone. Black people carried the trauma of being oppressed, while white people carried the trauma of being oppressors. Okay? Both are damaging. Both rot the soul. And right now, as the system collapses, the trauma is exploding everywhere. So when they ask that why are so many white kids lost, the answer is simple. The lies of racism couldn't hold forever. The mask cracked, and now they are staring into the same abyss black people have been staring into for centuries. Good thing is black people have been warning about this for decades. Okay? Every civil rights leader, every freedom fighter, every black scholar said that if you don't end racism, it will destroy the country, but they did not listen. Dr. King said it. Malcolm X said it. James Baldwin said it. Even in music, we create music that have the saying in it in poetry. Okay, but they laughed. They said that you are exaggerating. They said to, stop playing the victim. They said slavery was long ago. Racism doesn't exist. And now they are waking up in shock. Now they are crying out. Why? They are crying out because America is falling. But my family, the answer is not new. It is always racism. Racism drained resources, divided people, destroyed unity, and corrupted systems. Black people told them the cost will be too high, and they refused to listen. And right now, they are paying the bill. Okay? And this isn't just about America. This is global Europe too. The global Europe is facing collapse. The healthcare is under strain. The economies are fragile. The population are aging while African youths are rising. Their systems of privilege is cracking while the global South demands equality. White supremacy was expensive when it was not just in America, but worldwide. Colonization drained Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, but it also drained Europe because they spent trillions maintaining empire that eventually collapsed. We are in a phase we are calling global awakening. Black people across the world from Africa to the diaspora are rising, and we are building businesses. We are reclaiming history and uniting across the border, and the system that once seemed invisible is trembling. White people now realize that racism didn't just hurt black people only, it weakened them too. Because while they spent centuries holding black people down, who will know that they will come a bold someone trying to make things right? Okay? The future is shifting, family. And the question is, will they join hands to build equality, or will they collapse completely under their own weight? Okay? So racism was always expensive. It was expensive in money, in blood, in spirit, in health, in unity, just name it. It broke families. It poisoned minds. For centuries, the cost of hidden by pushing it on to black people. But right now, the debt has come due. And white America is testing what it feels like to be crushed by the very system they once thought protected them. Tell me all the thing on the comment section. Until next time, peace out.